Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to another exciting and informative video on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, we shall be looking at how Nigeria sees China as a steady partner and its largest lender. In this episode also, we shall be looking at the geopolitics surrounding China and the United States with regards to the country of Nigeria. We shall close this episode moving forward to looking at why China is still seen as a partner despite the ups and downs. We shall also advise and drive down to looking at the caution with regards to China, why China still remains attractive in the continent of Africa, and more importantly, the reason why Nigeria is leaning more to China as regards to the United States in terms of foreign direct investment. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. Nigeria has the largest population and the biggest economy in Africa, yet it is confronted with serious challenges. About 80 million of the Nigerians' 200 plus million people live in poverty. There is insufficient infrastructure, weak and inefficient institutions, transparency and governance issues, and an oil-dependent rent-seeking economy. Meanwhile, insurgency in the northeast is now being compounded by separatist indigenous people of Biafra, attacks in the southeast. Within the context, Nigeria's China relations are dominated by economic consideration. China is a major investor and an alternative to other sources of development finance like the International Monetary Fund, World Bank, and bilateral lenders. It has become Nigeria's largest bilateral lender. Before you start making comments and jumping into conclusion, I will encourage you to watch this video to the end for better understanding and clarity. China is one of Nigeria's top trading partners. According to the World Bank, Nigeria-China trade in products increased from about 1.2 billion in 2003 to over 13.7 billion in 2019. Nigeria's trade with the United States in the same period declined from just 11.5 billion to just over 7.5 billion. Within the same period, Chinese investment in Nigeria increased from $24.4 million to just over $123 million. Nigeria became one of the top 5 Chinese destinations in Africa after Kenya, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, South Africa, and Ethiopia as of 2020. Moving forward, beyond trade and investment, China is financing large projects and companies are attracted to deliver their construction projects in the country, including railways, road projects, and also rehabilitation of Nigeria's main 4 airports in Abuja, Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt. All this makes China's fundamentals to Nigeria's development finance. In addition to those projects, China has sold millions of US dollars worth of tanks and artillery to the country of Nigeria's military. China's rising influence in Nigeria nevertheless raises 3 main concerns which are worth emphasizing on looking at the trade relationship with these 2 countries. The first revolves around the opacity of China's loans and infrastructural contracts, something that can encourage corruption and also the illiberal activities. This opacity led Nigeria's House of Representatives, the lower house of National Assembly, so appointed as of May of 2020, to decide unanimously to probe Chinese loans. They voted for a probe despite a plea from the Ministry of Transportation. In looking at those different areas, the inquiry might have frustrated the future of Chinese loans in Nigeria. However, by June of 2021, there were major reports that the House probe was not proceeding. If you look at different aspects, China's response to the House probe was to emphasize that loans to Nigeria were mutually beneficial. Some months later, as of February 2022, a 2-man Chinese delegation visited Nigeria in regards to addressing this particular problem. Less than a month later, Nigeria began to adjust its regulations and also look into how to operate. Those visit appears to have successful as a positive statement about China's activities in the country of Nigeria, which were made to also increase its percentage in terms of investment. By showing willingness to reach out to the main oppositions in the country, the Chinese initiatives may have laid a useful foundation if the 2023 general election brings a change of government, just in case. If you look at the second aspect, Nigeria as a country, there are concerns that the imports of Chinese products, especially textiles, are contributing to the demise of the local industry. There have been protests amongst report links Chinese textiles to the unemployed thousands of Nigerians in the textile industry. The third aspect that is a major concern here is that the third concern centers of Nigeria's growing dependency on China. There have been situations where Nigeria has had to jostle to find alternative sources of finance when China or Chinese banks decline to fund projects they had initially committed to. Recently, the Chinese Exim Bank declined to proceed with funding of different projects. The Nigerian government was forced to approach Standard Chartered to bridge the gap after Chinese Exim Bank disbursed over 1.3 billion of an estimated total of just over 8 billion for a Lagos-Kano railway, a major infrastructural project to link Nigeria's former capital and commercial center to its largest northern city. If you are new to this channel, we will encourage you to subscribe and share our videos with your different network. The question with regards to geopolitics with regards to China and the United States regards to Nigeria. Like China, the United States occupies an important position in Nigeria's economic, political and also security relations. So far, the United States-China rivalry has had only a minimal impact on the Nigerian people. However, there could be a drastic impact if the rivalry persists and deepens. For instance, Nigeria's telecommunication industry is increasingly dominated by Chinese technology firm led by Huawei, a multinational equipment and service provider with credit lines from state-owned Chinese banks. In other aspects, if the so-called splinter emerges, with Chinese and the United States technology supporting different digital and internet ecosystems, that could be a cause for concern. It could have a disruptive impact and could force Nigeria to take sides. Not only have Chinese companies like Huawei and the ZTE dominated the telecommunication market by supplying the main services providers like MTN, and also, like many African countries, Chinese-made smartphones have become popular in Nigeria. Meanwhile, the enormity of the internet split could have unintended implications and disruptions for the emerging fintech in the country in West Africa in general. It is important to mention that of the 5 fintech unicorns, startups worth over $1 billion in Africa, 3 InterSwitch, the Flutterwave and also the Paystack are Nigerian companies. Thus, so far, Nigerian government has managed their relations with the United States and China in a strong, pragmatic way. As Foreign Minister Geoffrey Oyama put it during the United States Secretary of State visit in Nigeria and Tony Blinken in 2021 African trip. It's not a question of one country or the others per se. It is really a question of the best deal that we can strike with regards to our foreign partners. Nigeria had a democratic transition of power in 2015 after the ruling People's Democratic Party lost to the All Progressive Congress. The next general election is due in early 2023 and will take place at a critical moment in the country's history because, aside from the many security challenges, the country is confronted with socio-economic challenges. Although its relationship with China is important and strong, Nigeria's political system and political affinities are more in tune with that of the United States and Western Europe. Local media, civil society and successive governments offer a space where United States and European Union interests have operated without Chinese interference. There is also a challenge with regards to why these countries still see China as a partner despite the ups and downs with regards to relationship and concern in doing business with China. Public perception of China in Nigeria are generally positive. A Afrobarometer poll in 2020 reported that 62% of Nigerians view China as a positive influence on their country. The same percentage has rated the United States positively. The trend continues in 2021 when 63% of Nigerians consider China's political and economic influence as positive and gave the United States the same score percentage of 23%. At the elite level, China is considered a partner and seen as an alternative to traditional sources of development finance. Top-level political office holders in Nigeria and China have periodically exchanged visits. For instance, the President Jiang Zemin and President Hu Jintao visited Nigeria in 2002 and 2006 respectively. After President Olusegun Obasanjo, President Umaru Yar'Adua in 2008, President Goodluck Jonathan in 2013 and the sitting President Buhari in 2016 visited China altogether. In addition to China's premier, Li Keqiang's visit to Nigeria in 2014, Chinese Foreign Minister like Yang Qiji in 2010 as President Xi Jinping's Special Envoy in 2019, and Wang Yi in 2017 and in 2021 have visited Nigeria in total. Anti-Chinese sentiment has occasionally fierced up after triggered by mistreatment of Nigerians in Guangzhou in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, or the periodic maltreatment of locals by some Chinese companies in Nigeria. But those episodes have gradually faded and the usual friendly relationship returned. Of the 34 African countries, Nigeria ranked 7th highest in rating the Chinese development model best for their country as of 2019 to 2021. Afrobarometer survey also signified this in terms of research. It was favored by 29% of respondents, though 36% favored the United States model in terms of growth. However, there are controversial issues amid those broadly positive views of China. The decimation of the local textile industry is a focus of the anti-China's feeling. Although government policies on textiles and local factors have contributed to that industry's decline as well. Thousands have protested against Chinese textile import in the continent of Africa and also in Nigeria in particular. The Nigerian-Chinese relation has gone through occasional sharp swings and also instabilities over the economic matters. When the government of President Olusegun Obasanjo initiated a short-lived oil for infrastructure policy with China in 2006, seeking to pay for Chinese infrastructure with oil, it was cancelled after only a few months. Another example of instability in the economic relation with China was also the Chinese Exim Bank's reluctance to proceed with funding the Lagos-Kano Railway project. Although Nigeria's ruling elites generally consider China's reliance on alternatively sources of development finance, this perception too is skeptical. China remains an attractive alternative with regards to other areas. China has become a reliable major player in Nigeria's infrastructural development over the last 20 years. However, the future relationship will need to weather increasing regional instability and push back against Chinese debt. Nigeria's oil-rich economy is rent-seeking and has relied on exports of raw crude for years. Though China is not a major market for Nigeria's oil, more seriously, the impending global shift to renewable energy could devastate the economy, so to point out. China's development finance has led to a rise in debt. According to the Nigerian Debt Management Office, Chinese loans to Nigeria stood at about 10% of just over $3.3 billion of the total external debt. So to point out at the end of December of 2020, while this appears manageable in terms of total external debt portfolio, China is Nigeria's top bilateral lender, with 80% of the bilateral loans, which include loans from France, also Germany, and also Japan to other countries like India. Thus, the narratives of the Chinese debt trap used by Western diplomats may soon find its way into national discourse. As of 2020, questions about Chinese loans affecting Nigeria's sovereignty became a major issue in the National Assembly. In closing this episode, although China has not become election issues in Nigeria as it did in Zambia in 2006 national election, the lack of transparency in such loans agreement and the number of Chinese citizens working on China's funded construction projects, a caution China may therefore be responding to local realities so as to reposition itself for all possible election outcomes. In concluding this particular episode, in looking at the relationship with regards to Nigeria and China and the ball with United States of America and the European Union among other development partners, Nigeria-China trade has increased in the last 20 years, but in China's favor. Although the voice of local stakeholders will become loud, the trade imbalance in favor of China would continue, at least until Nigeria's government creates a necessary environment for local manufacturing to reverse the current situation. However, non-state actors like the media and civil society groups will remain critical in Nigeria's China relations, where the Nigerian state has failed. We want to thank you for watching. Hopefully we've informed you with regards to these particular challenges that the country of Nigeria faces in terms of, since it considers China as a steady partner. Let us know what your perception is and drop us your comment. If you are new to this channel, we will encourage you to check some of our informative videos on this channel, and we are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.